And joining me now by phone for more from London, Arkady Ostrovsky, the Russia editor for The Economist and author of The Invention of Russia. What are you looking for with Secretary Tillerson's meetings in Russia today?
Well, look, I don't think it comes as a big surprise that this honeymoon period between President Putin and President Trump has lasted very long. I mean, my concern has always been that, in fact, the risk of collusion between Russia and the US is much greater than the risk of collusion. You know, nationalism and populists very rarely get along. Now, as for Rex Tillerson, he is extremely knowledgeable in terms of Russia. He was present, of course, he was in the middle of Russia's biggest story in 2003, 2004, which was the turning point for Russia's relationship with the West, and that was the arrest of Mikhail Khodorkovsky and the dismemberment of Yukos, Russia's largest oil company, which Exxon wanted to buy at the time. And Rex Tillerson came to Moscow with Lee Raymond, at the time the CEO of Exxon, and was present in all the meetings. He knows how Russia works better probably than any other Secretary of State. He had a first-hand experience with some of Putin's cronies, including one of the most powerful men, Igor Sechin. So whatever Rex Tillerson does with that knowledge, he certainly has the knowledge. He certainly possesses more information and understanding of the inner work of the Kremlin, which is not to say is the same as how Russia as a country operates, but he certainly understands how Putin and how the Kremlin operate. And, you know, he was not a shover, and he will be able to stand his ground. And I think he commands much greater respect and attention in Moscow than his predecessor John Kerry probably did.
Arkady, after the U.S.-Syria strikes, the headline in The Economist was "Russia's romance with Donald Trump is dead." So I guess if it's dead, the question now, can it be mended? Look,
there are two things in there. One is that Russia sees President Trump as beneficial in terms of you know, Trump not mentioning the words democracy in his inauguration speech, Trump not being the end of sort of humanitarian interventionism. Although, you know, there are a lot of similarities between the Putin regime and Donald Trump, and how both TV personalities, which is what I try to argue in my book, The Invention of Russia, and you know, the new American edition is coming out. But the similarities between the two men does not mean that they're going to get along. As I said, I've always felt that the risk of the two falling out is greater than of them colluding, because both of them need external enemy. At the moment, they've clashed on Syria. I think it will be much harder, for whatever harsh Moscow rhetoric may be, it will be very hard now for Putin to really confront America in the same way as he could with President Obama. President Trump is a lot less predictable, hard to estimate what he'll do. And I think I don't think the romance is going to get mended. We'll have the meeting, presumably between the two presidents, in early July at the G20. But I think we're going to see a lot more hostile rhetoric from both sides. And President Trump never said, for all the praise of Putin he gave during his campaign, he never said that he would get along with him. So, and you know what? I don't think that President Trump is ever going to turn around and say, "I'm not getting on with Putin." There will be just more action, and Russia will have to take it. And I think Putin, you know, it's a typical case of be careful what you wish for, because I think presidents of Hillary Clinton would have been much easier from the Kremlin's point of view, and I think we will see a new low and a new explosion of rhetoric. Let's hope it will stop rhetoric and won't go on to the next level of military collision between the two countries in a place like Syria.
And quickly, before we let you go, we've talked a lot about the governments here, but what about the Russian people? What do they want to see come out of the relations with the United States?
Well, look, again, as I tried to, it's funny, I had to write, in sort of this new preface to the US edition, I was writing it as we saw the protests both in America and in Russia breaking out. We saw mass protests of young people on the East Coast and the West Coast of the United States in the large cities like Chicago, and we've just seen some of the largest protests in Russia. 17, 18-year-old kids are coming out in the streets protesting against the lies, the injustices, the corruption of the Putin regime. And those generations and those young people in America and in Russia have actually a lot more in common than they have with their respective regimes. I'll put it this way, they have as much in common with each other as President Trump and his team might have in common with President Putin and the Kremlin. It's a generational shift. And I think ordinary Russians, the young Russians certainly, ordinary, who is ordinary, but certainly the young, urban, successful, competitive Russians see, they have the same values, the same ideas as the young Americans. And so the lines of conflict no longer lie between the countries. They actually lie within the countries, between different generations. So I don't think we can any longer talk about Russia's relationship with America and equate it with the Kremlin's relationship with the White House.
Arkady, we certainly appreciate the time. Arkady Ostrovsky in London with some great insight. Thank you.
Thank you.